Hi, I'm Benton Stokes.
And I'm Elane O'Rourke.
And this is Cocktail Theology. Thank you! What? Where did all these people come from? This never happens.
Never happens.
Wow, this never happens.
It'd be really sad if they were in our room all the time.
I know.
That'd be kind of scary.
I know. It would be a little scary.
It would be.
It is so great to do this with you guys in the room, though. So this is what we actually do. We have a table, and it even looks kind of like this. It's just a little bit smaller. We have our microphones clamped on it just like this. We look at each other. I have my computer open and my headphones on, and we record our conversations. And so it's really fun to do this for an audience. It's also a little weird.
It is.
But we are really happy you guys are here. We are drinking because it's us.
What?
And it's in our name, Cocktail Theology.
That's right. Wouldn't it be sad?
It would be really sad.
We have done this with coffee.
We did
and
once.
We're not really as bright and cheerful.
No, we're really not.
We're less hopeful about the world.
It's true.
It's truly sad. Okay, anyway,
It's true,
yes.
truly sad. So, Elane, can you tell us about the cocktail we're having?
I can, actually. And I have a name for it.
Okay. I don't even know what this is.
Ready?
Yep.
Steeple.
Steeple.
Yes. I'll
Okay.
tell you why. It's...
Uh-huh.
Got that? T.
Uh-huh.
Apple.
Ah,
Steeple.
It's tea apple.
And I didn't say it was a good name. I just want to be really clear. So if you look at our cocktail book or you look at our list of cocktails, you can tell which ones I've named and which ones he's named. Because the ones he's named, people go, oh, yeah. And ones that I name, people go, wait, what? So Steeple. So we'll never be able to make it again because I measured nothing.
Right.
So in the glasses that other people have, they've got in the bottom a little bit of chai and apple juice with some actual apple frozen on the bottom to give it a little cold. Okay. The drink itself is pre-made chai with sweetened, homemade chai with added fennel, cardamom, coriander. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Then there's apple juice, apple brandy, buffalo whiskey, meaning whiskey from Buffalo, not... We'll let that one go. And then Kentucky bourbon.
Yes.
I feel like there's something else. Oh, and our Dolan Blanc, because we love Dolan Blanc.
And then there's some brandy in here too, right?
Yeah, I said the apple brandy.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but we're not going to name it because they don't care about us. And then also our Fee Brothers, because we love Fee Brothers.
We love Fee Brothers.
Fee Brothers should be paying us to do this thing.
They really should.
But it's their rhubarb bitters. So.
All right. How does everybody like the cocktail? Yeah? Awesome. Awesome. Right. I'm enjoying it. This is my first sip of it, so I'm enjoying it very much. Mm-hmm.
How does it feel to be back here?
Maybe I should clarify where here is. We are in Nashville, my hometown, and we are here with our friends who we've known for a long time. Some of you we met at Covenant of the Cross, where Elane and I met each other. Some of you we've met since. Most of our listeners know that School for Seekers is the nonprofit that we have, that we do coursework through. We do spiritual direction. We do worship and retreats and things like that. And we also do this podcast. And so these are some of our faithful School for Seekers people who've been with us for years. And so it's great to be in the room with you guys. Nashville is home for me. I love living in California, and California is home for me too. For me, home is kind of like where the love is. And right now, California is dear to me because Elane is there, and Brandon and Elizabeth are there, and I have friends that I've made since I've been there. I've lived there for 3 years. And so while I don't have a particular attachment to the city, San Jose, I have an attachment to the people. I also enjoy what my life looks like in California. But I think for me, having worked in the music business, having been, in church work here in Nashville, in addition to raising my kids here and everything else that I've done, in 50 years in Nashville, Nashville is a character in my story. And so I think because Nashville is a character in my story, there will always be a part of me that believes Nashville is home. And when I'm here, just driving around today, knowing the back roads to go over to pick up the PA that we rented, and knowing where the coffee shops are, and knowing, that's just a part of me in Nashville. And I do love that. And so, there are times when I'm in California and Tennessee feels like home and I kind of miss it. And then there are times when I'm here and California feels like home and I kind of miss it. And so I really feel like I've got bits of my heart in both places.
Sorry, I'm going to stop you talking and me talking for a second because I cannot get this to stay up. It's probably the weightiness of my thoughts.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I don't have a place like that. Right? So there have been places where when I got off the plane or I got off the boat or I got off the train, felt like home. So San Francisco's one of them, Amsterdam's one of them, where I arrived in town and I went, even though I didn't know the town, there was just a feeling about it. There's no place that I lived long enough to have that experience of growing up. Mm-hmm. And I'm terrible at it. So one of the things I say about Benton is he's got kind of a preternatural sense of direction. So it's not even supernatural. It's kind of like, woo, kind of weird natural, which I don't have. I mean, it's some, y'all. But so I don't have that, right? And even though I grew up in Southern California doesn't feel like home. Like I would never describe Southern California as home.
Yeah, I've never heard you say that.
I wouldn't. California feels like home. And I think it's because I've spent so much time in it, period. But I think it's also, for me, the fact that most places in California, I feel safe. I can be a queer, Christian, white, cis woman, and those things make me as vulnerable as they would make me anywhere else, right? But they don't make me extra vulnerable.
Right.
Whereas there have been places where I and my family have lived, where I didn't feel completely comfortable that my neighbors didn't want to kill one of us.
Right.
Like deep down, wouldn't prefer that we were gone. And that's, partly because we've got a queer household and my daughter's multiracial and, all of the things, right? And so I think one of the things about California, even though it's as diverse as it is, and it certainly isn't all liberal, because that is absolutely not true. Kevin McCarthy, please vote him out. Okay. Like, it's such a shame. It's like almost Reagan.
It really is a shame.
But overall, I feel like the law's basically trying to protect people like me and unlike me. You know what I mean?
Yep,
so I feel more comfortable there,
yes.
I think. I was thinking about this a lot today as we were driving around. Sometimes people will say things like, wherever my family is my home. And I don't even think that's true exactly. I mean, I'm attached to my family. I love my family. I want to be with my family. But if they were in Lodi, I wouldn't necessarily go, Lodi's home. And yes, that was for you, Bruce. But, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've been trying to figure out that whole geographical home piece. But I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Sure I get it.
I mean, I think I knew that California was home for you the first time that we traveled out there. And you were so excited to share it with me. And then we went to that little bar up on the hill, and we kind of wandered down to the sand, and I just saw you get lost in the ocean. Like you just stood there and stared at it. And I saw how taken you were with it and how moved you were by it. And I thought, wow, I mean, the connection you have with California is deep. And of course, I understand it better now. But then it was just like, that was the first real glimpse that I had into what your idea of home is, because you just had this rich, deep history and connection that resonated with you when you were there. And I think for some of us, that's home, right? I think we have that. If you grew up around mountains, or you grew up around the ocean, or you grew up around an activity like, fly fishing or hiking or whatever, maybe that area resonates with you because of the things you did, and there's a nostalgia for you that just continues to call you back. And I think some of us have those kinds of connections with places where we just feel called back or pulled back to those places. And some people would call those places home for that reason, whether it was where they were born and raised or not.
Yeah. Maybe we could expand on that just a little bit, to go out of geography and get to the fact that that's all about feeling, not about place. Right? Place brings it on.
Yes.
But if you went to the same place and you didn't feel that, you would feel disoriented. It wouldn't feel like home, right?
Right.
I'm thinking about the idea of thin places, right?
Yes.
Where we can be in a place and it's pretty consistent. Some places are really consistent, right? There are places where people who go there experience the divine. They experience the greater, whether or not they call it God, but they feel that their lives and that life are much more tightly connected and not so disparate, right?
Yes.
They're thin places, and I wonder whether there's something about home that has some of that texture, whether it's a geographical place or a set of people or an activity or whatever it is, whether it's more about how we feel, how we experience the world, than it is about that thing. I'm beginning to think that really home is inside us and beyond us and happens to connect in this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like
Say
that.
more. I mean, but
And
I like then talk. Yeah, I mean, like literally, I just kind of came up with that. So
No, I think that's true. I love the concept of thin places, places where the distance between you and something so much bigger, and not bigger in that threatening aliens kind of way, but more like bigger and comforting and like hopeful and real.
yes.
The distance is thinner. For some people, it could be a chapel or a church. For some people, it could be redwoods. For some people, it could be Joshua Tree. For some people, it could be being out by yourself in a river. I think that anywhere that we experience the divine that way
Yes.
can be home.
Yes.
If we
Yes.
open ourselves to the idea of that, particularly if we don't feel anchored.
Yes.
Because some of us don't. And some people move around a lot. They spend their whole lives kind of searching for that. And maybe like the place they think should be home doesn't feel like home.
Right.
And so they spend their whole life kind of searching for that. And I think that sometimes God revealing God's self in a unique way to us, maybe in a unique place or with a unique group of friends, is a way of revealing this is your home.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea that part of what home is where God reveals God's self. There's something in that I'd like to tease out more, maybe not at this time, but maybe another time. Because, you and I know, or at least one of the great tenets of our theology is that eternity is now,
Right.
and before, like time and there's no time in eternity except from our perspective, right?
Right.
So anything that is eternal is now,
Yes.
as well as not now. And so God's revealing God's self in a moment now is really about our sensing eternity. It's our getting
Right.
a grip on that. And I think that we belong in eternity. We are eternal beings. We belong in eternity. That doesn't mean we don't belong in the physical, but we also belong in the eternal.
Yep.
And the physical is so powerful and so strong and yells at us so much.
Yeah.
maybe there's something about that.
I think so too.
You know, I asked a number of people in preparation for this what their idea of home was, where they felt at home. And I wanted to read one. This is from our friend Melissa. So she says, I know I'm capital H home when I can truly be myself, speak, walk, wear my truths, and not be judged. And then she says, I know I'm little h home when I can be myself, speak, walk, wear my truths, and know I'll be judged, and I truly don't mind.
I like that. That's good.
Right?
That sounds like Melissa, right?
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it really
like,
does. I think
guess who
everybody here
wrote
knows
this?
Melissa.
Yeah. But what I love about that is capital H home, God is not judging us.
Right.
And once we get a hold of the fact that God is with us all the time and not judging us and is companioning us and with us and engaged with us, that's why God's home. And so when we talk about my home is in heaven or whatever that language is, it's not my language. So, but you know, that's what we mean, right? We may not know that that's what we mean, but what we mean is when we go home or we are with God, God's not going, boy, did you just waste your life, right? Or why are you, any of the number of things that we could describe ourselves as, right? And I think particularly for queer folk, so many of us have needed to distance ourselves from family or from things we might have called home, that finding where it is we can be with others. And if we're getting judged, it's not for that. It's because we behaved badly, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's something about that as well. I think we find home in a different way.
Yeah, I like that. You mentioned heaven, and I know that for many of us, like I grew up with a grandmother that talked about heaven. And I think there are people who truly long for heaven. Life is hard. And the physical realities that they deal with are so difficult that they just long to be with God. They long to be rid of the pain or whatever it is that they're dealing with. And I so understand wanting to be free of the pain. And in the same breath, I'm not sure what I believe so much about the afterlife these days. I know that I will be at peace and I will be with God, but that's all I really know. And that's really kind of enough, right? I think the comfort that we're talking about is being with God. It's not about streets of gold or a mansion on a hill or any of that. It's really just about crawling up in God's lap and being rid of the pain and the grief and the things that we deal with in this life. But the fact is, because we're already in God's kingdom now, we can enjoy the peace and joy of God now. And we don't have to wait for heaven. Right. Doesn't mean that we're rid of the things that, that worry us and weigh us. But it does mean that God is with us in those things now. And so I think there's a lot of comfort in that for me. And I hope there's comfort in that for y'all.
Right. And we don't have to be good in order to experience God that way.
We are already received and accepted and beloved.
That's right.
Where we are as we are.
Absolutely. Yeah, when we've talked about, what happened at the cross, it's like, I don't know what happened at the cross. All I know is that Jesus represented to me what that relationship with God could look like. And whatever happened at the cross made it available to me. And that doesn't mean it's not available to other people. I just know that for me, that makes it clear, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Good to go, right?
Right.
But God is that God for everybody.
Right.
For everyone. God is so creative. God is constantly going, hey, over here. Hello. Put down the plaid. Especially that plaid. But I mean.
You have to forgive us. We were just in Canada. There was a lot of plaid.
There was a lot of plaid. But a lot less plaid than I thought there was going to be.
We love you, Evan.
I do love you. Evan does not wear plaid.
He doesn't, actually. He didn't wear any plaid.
Yeah. Anyway, I do want to acknowledge just what you said, but kind of take it back a little bit farther. I want to acknowledge that so much of our sense, particularly folks who come out of evangelical traditions, Baptist traditions, and so forth, so much of that sense that true home is way over yonder, comes from slave narratives, slave songs, and so forth. And if anybody was going to think about, please let there be something past this, it's going to be people who are enslaved.
Yes.
Or people who are in war.
Yes.
Or people who are being abused at home. Or, we have a longtime listener whose body should be done by now and isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that person longs for that home because this home is not a good place to be.
Right.
Our perspective on that really has to do with our position too, right?
Yeah.
You and I think this is true, correct me if I'm wrong, we're in a pretty good place. We live well. We have people around us who love us. We get a chance to be creative. We get to, visit people we love, all of that stuff. So it makes being here a lot easier.
It does, right.
And because we have multiple places that we can call home, that also makes it easier.
Yeah, it does. What do you guys think about home? The concept of home. Is home a word that warms your heart? Is home a word that makes you feel a little squirmy? What do you think of? Who do you picture when you think of home? We always love to hear from our listeners, and we love to hear from you guys. We read your emails and your questions and your comments. You can always reach us, Elane, E-L-A-N-E, and Benton, B-E-N-T-O-N, at schoolforsecrets.com. Send us questions, send us comments. We would love to hear from you.
And please, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't subscribed to this podcast, please stop what you're doing right now and subscribe to the podcast, because that's how other people find us. The more subscriptions we have, the more people who follow us, the more likely we are to show up in people searching for something like us. So
absolutely.
Please do that. And if you're not on our mailing list, for heaven's sake.
Don't you hear us begging every week?
Don't you hear us begging every week?
Are you tired of the begging?
Please stop the begging. But go to schoolforsecrets.com, sign up for our mailing list. And the good thing about our mailing list is, yes, you will be inundated from time to time. But what we're inundating you with is when our courses are coming up, when we're doing events like this, when you can catch us online, when Benton needs a new pair of shoes. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't need more shoes, but I love shoes.
So, okay. We're all going to move on
okay,
from that little thing. But please do sign up.
Yeah, please.
We'd love to hear
please
from you.
do. Thanks you guys so much for being in the room with us while we did this. Was this weird? Was this okay? Look, more unprovoked applause.
I love that.
I love unprompted
applause. Isn't it great being at the Ryman?
It's my favorite thing. We love you guys, and we love you guys that are watching us on streaming, and we love you guys that are listening to this after the fact. I'm sorry you weren't here. Maybe you'll be here next time.
Yes.
And if you would like to bring us
goodness.
you, reach out to us, because we love doing this stuff. We are on the tail end of a 2-week road trip where we have been all over the place, including Chicago, Detroit, Canada. Thank you, Evan. We've been in Buffalo. We've been in Cincinnati. We've had a great time, and we would love to do more. So bring us where you are.
Yeah, please. And we will make it happen. We love being on the road. We will work with you on the finance, whatever it is. But what we want to do is to make sure that we are helping people whose experience of God has not correlated with their understanding of other people's ways of thinking about God.
Right.
We want to help people feel their experience of God in a loving, tender, livable, hopeful way. Right. And even if that means that you wind up being Jewish, Pam, that's what we want. So it's really important to us.
All right. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us. Bye, everybody.
Bye.